Hey guys, 1-2 here with a really cool tutorial. As you can see in the background, it is it's the same map from my Diablo controls tutorial, and I'm going to be building upon that map, and we're going to be making a cool spell, sort of how a Diablo spell works, which is where you can sort of target around, and the spell will travel along a line and hit any units along that path, or it'll hit a wall or doodads, etc. And it's surprisingly not very simple step in the StarCraft 2 editor, even though it's like the staple of the Diablo game was sort of like you tap a point with your right mouse and then the spell Fireball or Ice Bolt or whatever travels along that line and hits stuff. Well, I'm going to be showing you here in this about 35-minute tutorial how to make that kind of a spell. And so why don't we go in the editor and get started, and you can follow the text version of this in the link in the description, and you can also get the maps, the map if you want to base it off of my Diablo map or the final version of this. And you don't have to do this based on my Diablo map, but I will be doing it. You could do this on your map if you just wanted a missile that collided with terrain and collided with units. That's basically what I'm showing, except in the context of my Diablo map. But you will have to change a few things and stuff like that. But anyways, let's get started. Alright, so as you can see, I got my my Diablo controls tutorial map open. You can find it in the description, and you can also follow the text version of this tutorial in the description, like I mentioned. And you can do it without my map, but I'd recommend doing it first as you see it in following along with my Diablo map, because it's not gonna be exactly the same if you want to just put it in your own map. That's not a Diablo type map like my first tutorial in this series. So but anyways, I'm going to be using this map, and we're basically just going to be doing a lot of data work, making effects and stuff, but a little bit of triggers on top of that. So let's start off right away by opening the data editor here, and we're basically going to make a spell based on the battlecruiser's Yamato gun, except as the missile travels from your hero, it's going to check really quickly, like are there any units underneath it, and if so, then explode and deal damage to that unit. So it's sort of like along its Yamato cannon path, it's going to travel and keep checking, and then as soon as it hits the Zergling, it's going to be, oh, I hit a unit, and I'm going to explode, rather than keep going on like it would with the standard StarCraft 2 spell, or be directly targeted on a unit. So to start, we're going to go into the Abilities tab here. You can go use the drop-down as well, and see Battlecruiser Yamato gun, copy-paste it, do not duplicate. I'm going to be copy-pasting because it makes a little bit more sense. First things first, let's double-click it, and let's call this Fireball. Click Suggest, hit OK, and then under Ability Commands plus field here, click on the first row, and we're going to remove the requirement with a little red X there. And I'm not going to change the button since we're using triggers for our Diablo map. The button will never be seen, but if you're not using this in my Diablo map, then you'll need to make a button and set it here. So your hero has a caster button on his command card. Let's see, progress buttons, let's X out all of these, because we don't want that to be seen above, or that will never be seen anyway. Uninterruptible, let's uncheck all of these. Cost, let's fix things up here like we did with our other abilities previously. Cooldown time use, 0.1, which is just the minimum cast time we want for a Diablo map. And Vitals energy, I'm going to make it 0 just for testing purposes. Just so we can unlimited cast it, sort of thing. Now let's delete editor prefix. Let's delete that. We don't need battlecruiser in front of our thing anymore. We'll leave the effects for now. We'll be changing that later when we go manually make them ourselves. Under flags, you want to uncheck required target visions because we want to be able to cast like way off into places and just have it collide with the cliff or whatever. Let's remove the prepare time here. We don't want that. That'll mess it up. Range, I said 20 is probably good. That's about your screen. And range extra I set to 1. Not a big deal with that one. And UI show progress, uncheck that. Oh, that would mix a little bar above your guy. Although we did get rid of prepare time, it's not a big deal. And I think that's pretty much all we need to do here. We'll set the effect later, like I said. So actually, we're going to do that now in a second here. So I'm going to save as, because I don't want to overwrite my old tutorial here. And I'll call this, sorry about this, spell test tutorial. And there we go. I'm getting to be more of a stickler for saving after my last tutorial crashed in the middle of it. So Got to be on that pretty good these days. But click on the Effects tab here, and we're going to right-click anywhere in this list and go Add Effect, and we're going to name this Fireball Dummy Effect. And effect type, I'm going to choose Search Area and hit OK. So what this is that our Fireball ability, the Yamato gun one, just needs a dummy effect to target ground. So I'm using a search area to do that. I think you could use other ones if you wanted, but basically we have a search area thing that has absolutely nothing inside it. And it's just so that when we use our ability, it'll target ground properly. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, it's not a big deal, but we just need a dummy effect that doesn't do anything other than give the ability a target point, I mean. And next thing we want to find, scroll back up here and find Battle Cruiser Yamato Cannon Missile, and let's copy paste it. So this will be the missile effect, which gets launched by our ability, which will in turn do our dummy effect, I think. So let's double click our copy pasted thing, and let's rename this to be Fireball Missile. Hit suggest and hit OK. And let's remove the editor prefix. Where is that? Battle Cruiser, let's get rid of that. And where is impact effect? Let's change this to be our Fireball dummy effect. So F-I-R-E, there we go. And we got that in now. And now effect validators. Let's remove all these. And let's see, target impact location needs to be target point. You could set it to target unit / point, but I want to be clear that's a target point because we want this, like Diablo spells, you click the ground and then the missile heads towards that ground spot. Just that's how it works. So, and now we don't want the ammo unit to be the Yamato one, but we need to go make our own because this is going to be the unit that is the actual missile, because a missile is just a unit. So this is going to be the unit that's traveling along, that's going to have our behavior that makes it search around it for any units, like I mentioned earlier. So we're going to switch to the Units tab now. And I know we're going all over the place here, but I'm hoping I'm going slow enough that you understand the sort of chain. We have an ability that does a missile effect that creates a missile unit, and then that missile unit gets to the target point and does the target effect or whatever, so the dummy effect. But along that, we're going to be doing a lot more, like I said. So in the Units tab here, let's search for weapon. And let's see, weapon Yamato is what we want. There it is. And we're just going to duplicate, actually. So right-click, duplicate, and we're going to check off everything. Now, we're not going to necessarily change everything, but I just want to have them there. So if you want to change something, it's directly linked and only used by your little missile. Like if you want to change the mover so that it flies differently, which is pretty complex, actually, so I'm not going to touch that. But let's rename everything quickly here. So this is going to be Fireball Weapon. Suggest, okay. It's always a good idea to rename stuff. Fireball Weapon. Suggest. Otherwise, you'll end up with a bunch of copies. Fireball Missile. Suggest. And the last one is going to be Fireball. Click Suggest, and we'll leave the weapon prefix on it. So the missile is pretty much done now. So it doesn't have an actor at this point, but we'll deal with that later. I mean, sorry, it does have an actor, but we'll have to do some stuff to get it with actors later to get it into our ability fully. But one thing we can do right now is, now that we have this dummy, well, not dummy, but this sort of Fireball unit existing, we can actually go to the Effects tab here and clear the search bar, set the data to be our data, and under Fireball Missile here, ammo unit where I was talking about earlier, let's change it to be Weapon Fireball. So now it's got our proper unit, which is going to be that Yamato model traveling across the ground. So that's pretty much good now. So we're going to switch to the Abilities tab, and where is it? Abilities, and find our Fireball here, and then change Effect AI Notify Effect to be, let's see, Fireball Missile. And then we'll copy this line and paste it on effect. So so then now our effect is properly set to the missile rather than the Yamato, to our missile rather than the Yamato missile that does its own sort of thing. So we're pretty much good here with our ability, launching the right effect and creating the unit. But like I said, we have to go into we have to go into actors. So let's switch to the actors tab here, and let's make some visuals for this. So let's set the data to all data, the data source I mean, and search for battle cruiser. And let's see, we want Yamato attack. So the action actor is really good to use for spells or missile weapons and stuff. It's pretty much, or any weapon really. This is pretty much an actor that's associated with every sort of weapon or ability has it, because you can specify the missile, and it just takes care of all the launching and everything like that. So it's a great thing just that's already made, and we're just going to copy paste, and we're going to rename this to be Fireball Action. Suggest and OK. Now we'll have to clear the search and set our data back to our map so we can actually find it. And in the top token fields here, we want to change these two effects to be ours. So the first one, instead of damage, we need to change it to be our dummy effect. So search for Fireball dummy effect. And then the launch effect, we want it to be Fireball missile. So now we have the right effects that will take these two token fields, actually set stuff down in here that takes care of the rest. So these aren't actually important fields in themselves. These are just sort of tokens that will change other fields within here, as you saw it turned yellow now. So other than that, let's see, we want to change art missile. We don't want it to be their missile, we want it to be our Fireball missile, which we duplicated in the process of our unit earlier. So search for Fireball missile. So that should be the art missile field now. And art beam doesn't matter. If you click on it, it's just set to custom. It doesn't even do anything really. So everything's good. The spell would work. The little explosive would travel to that point. A little Yamato fireball sort of thing would travel, but it would not hit any units along its path. So we need to actually fix that. So we're going to make a behavior that periodically searches, like every 0.1 second, that periodically searches around the missile, and if it finds a unit, it's going to damage that unit. So to start, we'll switch to the effects tab here. Let's see, what are we going to do? We're going to search for Yamato and make sure you're on all data and find the damage one, and we're going to copy paste it. And we'll double click, and we're starting from the ground up here. So let's rename this to Fireball Damage and hit suggest. So we'll have to clear search, of course. And there we go. So where is it there? Fireball. And let's clear the editor prefix so we don't have battle cruiser sitting in front of it. And I'm going to change the combat damage amount to 50. I think that's more reasonable because you can spam this spell. So this is probably even pretty high itself, but it's up to you sort of how you want to do that. And the death effect, I'm going to change I'm going to change to fire. Probably won't actually affect much by doing that, but just to be kind of clear about things, I want to do that. And let's add another effect now. And so right click in the main area here and go add effect. And we'll call this Fireball set and hit suggest, and effect type is going to be set. And I'll show you in a sec why we're actually making this. Let's see, and that's all we need to do right now for this. And let's right click again. Oh, sorry. For our Fireball set, we need to do actually two things. In effects here. I didn't realize I was doing this now, but I guess I am. Good old notes. We want to add two effects into here, which the first one, important in the order here, by the way. The first one is Fireball Damage. Hit OK. And then the second one is Suicide, which is a default effect that the game just has. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. When the Fireball missile finds a unit, it's going to damage that unit, and then it's going to suicide itself so it doesn't keep traveling. Because, like I said, a missile is just a unit, so you can just suicide it and it'll disappear, which is great. It makes our lives a lot easier just being able to kill it like that. So it's times like that where it was really good that they made the dead editor so complex, because we can do crazy stuff like Diablo spells, which is awesome. So back into what I'm actually doing here. Let's add another effect. And stupid Skype always popping up there. Let's add another effect here, and let's call this Fireball Search. And hit suggest and change the effect type to search area. And hit OK. And so we're going to, with it clicked, we're going to set the maximum count to be 1, because we only want it to hit 1 unit for this spell. or to find one unit. And then on search, where's search filters? We want to make sure only enemy is checked. That way, this thing as it's searching will only pick up enemy units. You should probably like uncheck dead, like exclude dead, and exclude air if you wanted, exclude invulnerable, exclude item. But although items would never be treated as an enemy, exclude other missiles if that's important to you, if you don't want this to collide with other missiles, etc. And stasis if you wanted, or structure. Actually, you want structure, but this will, you basically want to take care of anything just so you don't have headaches later when you realize, oh, I didn't set it to not hit invulnerable, and how come my spell can hit invulnerable people when I thought they'd be immune? Well, that's why, because you didn't check off that one little thing. But anyways, let's do the search areas now. So double click on that field, search areas plus, and we're going to right click add value. The effect is going to be, let's see, fireball set is what we made it, I think. Yeah. So, and then the maximum count is 1 again. We just want to be clear about that. Radius, I found that I think a radius of about 1 is good. It's sort of hard to gauge because you don't want it to be too big, but you don't want it to be too small that it misses the units. Maximum count, I did set it to 1. You could leave it at -1 since our max out here is 1. So maybe I will leave it at -1. But it means that by having maximum count out here at 1, it should max out properly. It's sort of double the amount of. It's sort of weird that it has this property here and this property here, but not a huge deal. So this will search around and find and apply our set. So we got that. And effect response flags, we want to check off both of these so it'll alert any units, sort of thing, when it hits them. It's important to check that sometimes because otherwise they might sit there. And if you saw my demo, they did just sit there at the start when I was hitting them. I think they just don't have a large enough sight radius, so you'll have to play around with that. You don't want your enemy units to just be sitting around all day. So, and I'm just gonna save here. And now we're gonna go actually make the behavior that's gonna periodically do this search. So switch to the behaviors tab, and I think I'm just going to right click and add a behavior. And I'm going to call this fireball find target. And I'm going to suggest, and the behavior type is going to be a buff, which is just something that sits on a unit for a period of time. In our case, until it dies, or until it finds a unit along its path. So buff, hit OK. And with it selected now, we want to go to effect periodic, double click. And the periodic effect we want to do is fireball search. So you can see we got quite a few effects here, but it makes sense how they're all sort of tie together. And I'll do a recap at the end to sort of explain everything, and you can follow the text version if you find that easier than this maze of the data editor we're sort of going through here. Stats flags, we want to check off hidden because we don't want the player to be able to see this hidden buff, this buff that shouldn't be visible. And stats period, instead of 0.00, we're going to do 0.1. And so every 10th of a second, it's going to search around itself, and it's going to try and find an enemy unit. And if it does, it's going to suicide and damage that unit. So it's nice how everything sort of brilliantly came together like that. That's the brilliance of the data editor. And now we can switch to, where is it? Switch to units here and find our weapon fireball. And find behaviors plus, double click it, and right click add value. And the behavior we're going to add is fireball find target, and hit OK. So now our missile will have the actual behavior that makes it search around it for enemy units, or search under it basically as it's traveling. And so yeah, it's going to work now, but it won't play a cool like sort of explosion like when you saw when the fireball hits the target. It made that like sort of Yamato gun explosion. That actually won't happen with the suicide effect. So it'll happen if you click here and it actually makes it to this point. But if it hits the unit along its path, it's not actually going to explode right now. So, and I don't know if that's a bug or not. I don't know if there's a way I can change that on the suicide effect. But we have to manually check if we hit a unit in actors here and then play the explode animation, or play the explode model for the Yamato gun. It's an unfortunate thing, but I couldn't find a way to actually get the suicide effect to trigger the normal sort of blow up of a Yamato gun. So, so to do this, let's switch to the Actors tab here, and let's right-click and go Add Actor, and we'll call this Fireball. A very simple actor we're going to make here. Fireball, hit, target, explode, model, and we'll suggest, and the actor type is model. Don't you love this long name I chose? And it's going to be based on buff one shot, which gives us some nice initial values to take care of a few things. So for this actor, the art model is going to be Battle Cruiser Yamato Attack Impact, which is the explosion. If you did some searching, you could find that yourself, but I already know that. And now let's open Events Plus, which is the only really important thing here. As you can see, when this actor is created, it's going to play any sort of birth stand or death animation that it needs as it's going. So luckily, a lot of the spells that Blizzard made, the models, will automatically have a birth, stand, and death that sort of will automatically play because of this line here, which is great. And this will take care of some other stuff, and this will take care of some other stuff, which is good. But we want to right-click and go Add Event, and we want to actually, there's no actual event that'll create this actor, so we need to add one, which in our case, the event is Effect. And this is the cool thing about events here, you can respond to almost anything. We're going to be responding to Fireball Set, which I found is the ideal one to respond to rather than Suicide or Fireball Damage. Fireball Set and Start, so whenever that effect actually happens, aka we just hit a unit with our Fireball, I know that from testing, we want to just create, which will just create this actor. And then it'll play, this will take care of playing its animations, and then this will take care of destroying it, etc. It's great that they added those by default. And hit OK, and we're done here. And now we need to make the sound, though, because that's just the visual model. So let's right-click again here and add actor. And let's call this Fireball Hit Target Sound, and hit Suggest. Actor type is Sound, somewhere down here. There it is. So many actors. And based on sound one shot, just so we have the right default values set up. And the sound, double-click it. And it's going to be Battle Cruiser Yamato Attack Impact. And then open events again, and we have to pretty much do the same thing. So add an event, message type effect, source name Fireball Set, subname Start, and then the action will be create. So we want to create this sound actor, and which will play the sound when this Fireball procs on a unit, basically. And that's basically what this event will do, is respond to any time that set effect occurs, and the only time that set effect occurs is when it found a unit while the missile was traveling. So we're pretty much done here with the actors, and now we're going to go in and add this ability onto our actual Zealot. So in the Units tab here, find our Zealot that has our sort of hero guy, and in Abilities Plus, add our Fireball ability to the bottom here. Fireball, there it is. Nice. Now we just have to go into the trigger editor and set up the casting of it. And if you weren't using my Diablo map, you could have added your button on the command card here, then you could ignore this trigger part sort of thing. But this trigger part is important for the Diablo sort of tutorial. I'm showing you how you can easily use my Diablo tutorial, easily expand on my Diablo tutorial, adding your own spells. That's kind of another goal of this tutorial. So open triggers now. And in the spells folder here, I'm just going to copy paste this change to spell 3, hit F2 and rename it, change to spell 4, in brackets, Fireball, close bracket, change the event, I'm going to change it to be, instead of 3, the 4 key, and that's okay. And now the right mouse spell is not going to be Sentry, Guardian, Shield. We're going to search for Fireball, and you might notice that it actually comes up under Yamato Cannon. That's because the button, I left it as the Yamato button. However, it doesn't actually matter in this Diablo map because, like I said, you'll never see that button. But if you're searching, you might not be able to find it. That might be the reason. So it requires a target? No, but it does require ground. So we'll set that to true. And then this spell cooldown is decent. I'm not going to change that. And then we'll need to change this line to be Fireball set to right mouse, just to inform the user. And there we go. So now I'm going to save, and we're pretty much done except for colliding with cliffs and doodads. So Let's go check this out and just make sure that it's good to go. Okay, so I'm going to hit, that was funny, I just saw player 2's unit like disappear really quickly. I'm going to hit 4 to set it to fireball. And now if I click here, you see the fireball come out and explode. And you can see if I target this unit, it explodes on him and kills him because it does more damage than it has health. And if I click behind, it'll hit the unit on the way, which is exactly like a Diablo spell. You sort of just, you spam click and well, usually Diablo spells aren't that crazy, but I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to actually play this. Well, too bad I didn't have more Zerglings. It could have been pretty crazy. So that's the great thing about the Diablo, my first Diablo tutorials. You can look at how easily I added in another spell. Aside from the difficulty in actually making the spell for the first time, which will be easy to replicate once you've done once, the actual trigger part of adding in that spell was like one trigger in one line, and now suddenly I can do this, right? So, but there is one problem now. I can cast over here, and you can see that it goes all the way through, or up there, or etc. It goes through the trees, and that's not really, it goes to the target point nicely, but if you clicked up here, that's not really what you want. You want it to hit the cliff and explode, or you want it to hit this tree and explode on the tree when it hits it. That's how Diablo has it. So I haven't found a perfect fix for that, but I found a way to actually do it pretty good, and that's going to be the next part of this, the sort of bonus part of this tutorial, is making this fireball collide with the trees and the doodads and cliffs and stuff. So let's go back in the data editor here and fix it up. So what we're going to be doing is adding a second behavior to our weapon fireball that really quickly checks underneath it if it's on a no pathing zone, and if so, it'll suicide itself. So we're going to be using a validator to do that, and I don't actually use them that often, so this might be a new I don't think I've ever done a validator in my tutorials ever, so but it's actually quite simple when you see this little chain we're going to make here. So we're going to start from the ground up here, and we're going to start from the validators tab of the data editor. And we're going to right click and add a validator. We're going to call this check no pathing. And yes, that is a bit of a simple thing to do. I mean, there is one problem with this right now. If you were up here and you cast your fireball down here, it's going to reach this no pathing of this cliff point right here and then destroy itself, which doesn't really make sense. But, so like I said, it's not perfect. But if you're down here and you target up there, or you target on behind this tree, it's going to reach this point right here and see, oh, no pathing, blow itself up. And it's sort of a crude way of doing the Diablo collision with doodads and terrain. Not as clean as our unit system, but it worked pretty well, so it was pretty cool, as you saw in my demo even at the very beginning. So back in our validator here, check no pathing. Validator type is going to be location pathable. And you see location compare cliff level. You might be able to make use of that if you wanted to get more advanced with this sort of collision thing, but I'm not. I'm just going to use location pathable, and I'm going to hit OK. And we're going to set the target location to be source unit / point, because we want to check whether the missile unit is on a no pathing point, not any sort of spell location or anything. So that's okay. And validator find, we want it to be finding for disabled, so make sure it's disabled for validator find. We want to find ground that is disabled, and that's how I sort of read that value, and that's how I sort of interpreted it. And now let's switch to the effects tab, which is going to actually make use of that validator. And search for suicide. We're going to be copying it because we like everything about it. We want to, it should be grayed out. We just want to change one thing. So copy paste suicide, rename it to be suicide if unpathable, hit suggest, and hit OK. And now for this suicide, we want to open effect validators, double click it, right click add value, and search for check no pathing, which is the one we just made, and hit OK. So this effect, we're going to make it work on our missile, but it's only going to happen if there's no pathing underneath the missile. So it'll be fine for most of its travel, and then boom, it hits this no pathing zone and it blows up, or this tree, or etc. It's all no pathing zones. If you go view, show pathing, and make sure you have these two checked, and then show mesh, you can see these cliffs are actually no pathing zones, even though they're just grayed out, and all these trees are no pathing zones, etc. So that's how you can sort of determine it. And now back in the data editor here, we've got our little suicide there. with the right validator on it. So let's switch to the behaviors tab and and clear our search bar and set the data to our map. Copy paste fireball find target. Rename it to be check no pathing. Hit suggest. Hit OK. And we're going to change the effect periodic to be our suicide if unpathable. And the stats period to be 0.0625, which is the fastest BattleNet will handle, which is 1/16th of a second. I asked some friends about that one, so I wish I could do it faster, but it seems like a decent performance trade-off. Like, you don't want to be running too many periodic things all the time very quickly, because that might lag your map. But we need to run this one frequently because the Yamato thing travels so fast that we have to check really frequently, because it might pass over this tree. And while this thing was skipping a heartbeat of 1/16th of a second, it might have actually gone over the tree. So that's why I said this thing isn't flawless, but it's pretty good. 0.0625 is pretty frequent, so and that's the fastest BattleNet can handle. So now let's switch to the units tab here and find our weapon fireball and go to behaviors plus, copy paste that, and let's choose our check no pathing. So now it's going to find a unit, or it might check that it's on a no pathing zone and kill itself if so. But like I said, like we had earlier, if it kills itself with our new suicide effect, it's not actually going to play the explosion model, which again, I don't know if that's a bug with the way suicide works, or if it's some flag I need to check off here. Who knows? But anyways, we'll have to go back to the actors tab, and luckily we already made 2 actors that take care of the explosion. So we can just open the fireball hit target explode model, double click events plus, copy paste the one we made before, except change the effect that we're using to be suicide if unpathable, and just change the subname to start, and then hit OK. So this Yamato explosion model will play if either of these effects occur. So that's the nice thing about events. And then we go into the sound one now, open events plus, copy paste our previous one, and change the effect to be suicide if unpathable, start, and hit OK. And we're pretty much good on that now. So let's save and go test, and it should collide with walls now, and we'll basically be done. Okay, so I'm going to hit 4 here. I'm going to knock off these zerglings. Nice. And then now if I hit over the cliff, it explodes on the cliff. It explodes on the tree. It explodes on that tree. It explodes on that tree. So great, it's working. And that's pretty much this tutorial. I mean, I wanted to show, like, kind of expand on my Diablo one, that you can make a Diablo type spell that sort of, see, it's colliding with this terrain, and then it's colliding with the units. And yes, it is a little bit of grunt work to do that, but now if you've followed all the way along, you've made yourself one full spell here, and it's pretty easy to kind of continue along those lines. It's just a little bit of work. I mean, you got to have the missile. The missile's got to be checking as it's traveling really quickly. Am I hitting a unit? Am I hitting a unit? Am I hitting a unit? Okay, but explode if so, or am I hitting terrain? And that's basically what we did. And it was that easy to add the spell into our Diablo system already because of how we had made it. And that's it for this. And I don't know if I'll be doing more tutorials along this Diablo series. It's been pretty fun because of the excitement of Diablo 3 lately, but I did want to make a Diablo spell because that's pretty important. There's no sort of StarCraft 2 spells that are like that, where they kind of collide with a unit along their point of travel. So anyways, thanks for watching, and yeah, I hope I can make other tutorials, some good ones soon. But yeah, like I said, I don't know if they'll be along the Diablo series, but if you got any good Diablo things that I missed, and I don't know if I want to do one about the inventory and UI of Diablo, because that's just a dialogue tutorial, which is going to be long, tedious, and boring. So, but if people demand it, I might try it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.